I remember walking out of the theater kind of like, that can't be the ending. That can't be the ending.
Yeah.
And then having to wait for, what was it, like a year?
Yeah, a year and a
I
half.
had to wait a year to finally get the closure. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode. Today, nothing's changed. Everything's the same as the last few videos.
Well, that's not great, as you can see.
No,
Yeah.
I think everything's about the same as it was.
We don't have to hold the mics anymore.
That's pretty neat.
Nice.
I like that.
Okay, today we are going to be talking about our top 10 favorite movies. We each made our own separate list, and we're going to go back and forth and talk about our favorite movies.
Indeed, we will.
So, my number 10 is going to be Logan. This movie is really good, and it's really, emotional and, gritty almost. It's super violent. So much violence. But I think it was a really great, almost end to Hugh Jackman's Wolverine. It wasn't like a crazy action superhero movie. It was kind of like more of a drama and a western movie. And I think it was really good.
I've heard a lot of good things about that movie.
Yeah.
Especially from you. You definitely said it was really good.
Mm-hmm.
So, my 10 is going to be The Wizard of Oz. It's definitely a classic. I feel like almost everybody in the world has seen that. And I put it on my list just for the sole fact that it is so nostalgic. Like, I remember watching Wizard of Oz all the time and just the little munchkins and everything. It was just so nostalgic to me. And it was a revolutionary movie at the time. Wouldn't you say? That was pretty revolutionary to have color, the plot with the being based off the Wizard of Oz book, which I didn't even know existed until recently. Did you know that there was a Wizard of Oz book?
It makes sense.
The Wizard of Oz had to break the top 10 for me, just because it is such a great movie. If you haven't seen it, what are you doing?
Move on to number 9.
Let's do it.
My number 9 is Disney Pixar's WALL-E. This is another one that I bet a lot of people have seen. It's by far my favorite Disney animated movie and Disney Pixar movie. And I think it has a really good message about pollution and love. And the animation is great. I'm glad it doesn't have a sequel or anything. It's its own thing. And it's very good.
That's how it should be.
And I really like it. So, yeah.
All right. So my number 9 is, I'm sure a lot of people have seen it, but it's not super popular. It's The Village. So basically, it's a horror, like a psychological horror. And shout out to my aunt for showing me this. Thank you. It was such a good movie. We watched it on Halloween, and it is such a good movie. Like, a little summary is there's a group of people, and they live in a village. It's kind of like a 1800 style, like before the Industrial Revolution village. And you don't realize that they are kind of isolated from the big city, like a modern city. Like, I'd say like a 1960s, 70s city outside of their little village. And so her husband is shot, and she has to go find medicine for him. And so they send her off into the woods, which is basically sending her off into the city. Basically. So it's a good movie. I'm sure a lot of people haven't seen it. So if you haven't seen it, definitely go watch it. I would totally recommend that movie to anybody.
Yeah, I'll have to check that one out.
Yeah.
Never seen it. Okay, my number 8 is Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. The animation is just next level. It's crazy and funky, and the characters are good, and it's just the animation is just like so creative.
It was kind
And
of like a new thing
yeah, and
when it came out.
like they use different frame rates for the characters throughout the movie. Miles' story is really good, and he's definitely like one of the best Spider-Mans out there.
My number 8 is also not a very popular movie, but Tom Hanks stars in it. It's going to be The Road to Partition. So that one is like it's really kind of sad. It's a really sad movie, but anything with Tom Hanks in it is going to be a great movie. I mean, he's just an amazing actor. He is probably one of my favorite actors of all time. You're going to notice that he's in this list quite a bit. The movie he's kind of like a 1930s, 40s, like a, I guess, outlaw criminal. And he has a little son, and they just go around and, you know, commit crimes, like rob banks and everything. And they're trying to get the kid to his aunt's house so he doesn't have to be in the crime life and everything. It's just a great movie.
Yeah, I'll have to check that one out as well. My number 7 is War for the Planet of the Apes. And this movie is the third one in a trilogy of Planet of the Apes movies. In general, I think the trilogy is just really good. It's about apes that kind of take over the world and kind of send it into like a post-apocalyptic state. The CGI is really good. It's super realistic. And I also think you wouldn't think this, but like the characters of the apes and stuff are like really deep and emotional, and like they grow throughout all the movies. It's also kind of like Logan in that it's not super action packed, but it's more of like a drama. You should definitely check all three of the movies out.
I've only seen a little bit of the first one, so I'll definitely have to check those out.
Yeah.
So my number 7 is going to be Guardians of the Galaxy, the first one. I had to put that on my list. It's a great movie overall, good character building. The soundtrack is one of the best that there is, and that goes for the second one as well. And it's just, Chris Pratt is an amazing actor. All the actors in it are really good. I mean, Vin Diesel is Groot. Everybody in that is just, it's an amazing movie overall. If you haven't seen that, it's one of the Marvel movies, so I wouldn't say you need much background to watch it, though.
Yeah, it's
It was the first
story.
one, so, I mean, that one you can watch and understand it, because there's not really a lot of other references to other heroes. It's definitely a good movie to watch.
Alright, so my number 6, a recent movie that came out a few months ago called Everything Everywhere All at Once.
I have never seen this movie.
And this movie, I'm not even gonna say much because just go watch it. It's like the craziest movie I've ever seen, ever. Like, my jaw was like on the floor in the second half, the entire second half. It gets crazier and crazier, and it just doesn't stop until the end. And you definitely want to watch it, for sure, in your lifetime.
Was that the one that you were telling me about earlier with the Claire de Lune thing?
Yeah, it's crazy. It's multiversal, just all over the place awesomeness. So go check that out.
I'll definitely have to check that one out.
Yeah.
It seems really good. So my number 6 is not really an obscure one, but you haven't seen it, have you?
I don't know. What is it?
It's The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
I don't think I have.
So basically, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly it's a Western movie, and there is one a good, there's a bad, and I can't remember. What was the last one?
Ugly.
Oh, yeah, it was ugly, basically. And so another reason why I put this on my list was, again, the soundtrack is one of the best there is out there, especially for Western. You know, it's like the doo-doo-doo, and then the hawk, like
Yeah.
with the standoff between all three of them. I feel like it paved the way for a lot of other Western movies out there, and it has Clint Eastwood in it. He's definitely a prominent figure in the Western movie community, I'd say.
Yeah.
Yeah, it got me into watching a lot of Western movies, and I liked it a lot. So it's up there at 6. So made its way up there.
Alright, my number 5 is Matt Reeves' The Batman. This also came out recently, but this is definitely my favorite DC movie ever. And, like, it's super, like, dark and, like, super. It's, like, almost like a horror movie, but, like, not. The opening scene and just like the atmosphere that carries through the whole movie. It's one of those movies where you're kind of like looking away to like to you think something bad's about to happen, but that's like how you feel the entire time. It's so good.
I'll say that's one of the recent movies that's come out that I have not seen. So my 5 is going to be the first Back to the Future movie. It came out in what was it, 80, 85?
Something like that.
So it's definitely it's been around for a long time. I know a lot of people just love that movie. I definitely love that movie. It was definitely a different type of movie at the time. Not like sci-fi. There was a lot of sci-fi movies like Star Wars and everything like that, but this one kind of took the sci-fi thing and made it more science than, well, there's fiction in it, but there's more science than I'd say fiction, because you have the mentor to Marty McFly with Emmett Brown. He's basically a scientist. He makes a DeLorean into a time machine, and they have to go and just make sure that Marty's parents kiss at a dance, or else he will he won't exist anymore. And it's just an amazing premise. The soundtrack of that one's good too. I mean, it's just an amazing movie all around. If you haven't seen it, that's a good one to watch with kids, teens, adults. It's just a great movie. Steven Spielberg, right?
Yeah.
Yep, Steven Spielberg's a good one. Good director.
Yeah. My number 4 is Spider-Man No Way Home. I'm sure most people have seen this, but
If you haven't, you need to see this.
this movie is really good, obviously. It sold a lot of tickets, and the main reason I had it so high is because that was probably like the best movie theater experience I've ever had. Like, when certain things happened, I won't say what, because there might be people who haven't seen it.
Yeah, we don't want to spoil anything. That's
But
not what
when
we do
certain
here.
things happen, like the whole theater was clapping and cheering, and it was just amazing to be there, and the movie itself is good too. You know, the cameos are like part of the story. It brings 20 years of Spider-Man live action into one movie, and I think it was a great movie for Tom Holland's Spider-Man as well. It really like set a new path for him, and I'm excited to see what they do next with him. So yeah.
My number 4 is Avengers Endgame. Need I explain? Yes, I should. So, Avengers Endgame is the part 2 to Avengers Infinity War.
The epic finale.
The epic finale, the end of the Avengers. It definitely wrapped up the Avengers story, I'd say, perfectly. I don't know if they could have done anything better than what they did.
Yeah.
Truly. I don't think they could have done anything better than how they did it. There's definitely some losses that kind of hurt, but I mean, it's an amazing film. Great story. One of the best stories. It shows how even superheroes have to think outside the box, and they don't always win all the time.
Yeah.
It represents that really well. So
Yeah.
definitely check that out if you haven't already.
Yeah. Alright, so now we're getting into the top three, but before we do that, we want to give our honorable
Honorable mentions.
mentions. So, to start, I'll do mine. My honorable mentions are Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope, and The Quiet Place Part 2. And to start with A New Hope, I mean, it's a classic, and I love Star Wars, and I would say that's one of my favorite Star Wars movies. I've seen it a ton of times, and I'll see it a ton more times.
It's definitely one of those where you can just watch it over and over every year, every month if you want to. It's just a classic movie.
And then Quiet Place Part 2, I won't say much because later in the list I will say much. So those are my honorable mentions. Trenton?
I like those honorable mentions. I have not seen A Quiet Place 2 though.
Definitely.
I've seen clips on it on YouTube, and from what I've seen, it's a really interesting story.
Mm-hmm.
So my honorable mentions are Star Wars Empire Strikes Back. So we got the Star Wars honor. I think the only reason why I didn't put New Hope is because the Empire Strikes Back is like, it's when Luke is more of a Jedi.
Yeah.
A New Hope is when Luke's a regular guy transitioning to Jedi. So I like it when he's already a Jedi. Just the Luke Skywalker, most people know. It's like, it's the Jedi Skywalker.
Yeah.
So I also had another Tom Hanks movie, The Green Mile. I know, have you seen this one?
I am not.
I know a lot of people have seen this one. It's definitely, shout out to my aunt for showing me this one. That one's a great movie. I enjoyed that movie. Again, Tom Hanks is just an amazing actor. My last honorable mention is going to be the first SpongeBob movie. I grew up watching SpongeBob. SpongeBob is definitely one of my favorite nostalgic shows to watch. I remember when I was growing up, I always wanted to try a Krabby Patty. Always. I wanted to go through the TV and visit all the characters and eat a Krabby Patty. I remember in preschool, when we took naps, I had a SpongeBob blanket, and it had the 3 houses on it: the Patrick's Rock, Squidward head, and the pineapple. And I remember I'd put it over my head and pretend I was going into those places, like meeting the characters and looking around their house and everything. It's definitely more childish than most of the ones I have on here, but just the pure nostalgic, just like The Wizard of Oz. It's just an amazing movie since I grew up with watching SpongeBob.
Yeah. So now we are getting into our top 3. Final 3. Those, for my number 3, that is going to be The Quiet Place Part 1.
Which I also have not seen.
And I'll explain it a little bit. And it's basically a post-apocalyptic story of a family living together and trying to survive in a world where there are creatures that will basically kill anything that makes noise. So they have to be super quiet, and they have to wear, like, things on their feet to not make loud footsteps, and, like, I think the way, like, that kind of stuff was really cool, and I think it's not a super long movie, and I think it's just, like, really well directed and, like, tense. You know, there's not a ton of jump scares, but it's really tense, and I really like that. And I think everyone who likes suspenseful and, like, thriller movies should check Part 1 and Part 2 out.
I think The Quiet Place is a lot like The Village that I was talking about. definitely a lot of suspense in that one. So if you like The Quiet Place or you like The Village, definitely vice versa, check those out. So my number 3 is Bennett has already said it. So Spider-Man: No Way Home, definitely a great movie. If you're not a Spider-Man lover and you haven't seen the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, Andrew Garfield Spider-Man, and Tom Holland Spider-Man, might not be the movie for you.
It's a movie for the fans.
Definitely, and
It delivers.
It delivers. The fans loved it. I'm definitely hardcore Spider-Man fan. I actually in 6th grade I made my own web shooters, so definitely a nerd.
Nice. My number 2 is an animated movie from Studio Ghibli, and it's called Spirited Away. And in general, Studio Ghibli makes amazing 2D animated movies. The art style and it's like the overall vibe, I guess, are just really nice. And Spirited Away is like a really good story. It's just a really good movie, really good animation. Check out Spirited Away and Studio Ghibli and all the other things as well.
My number 2, so it's going to be Rear Window. And I'm sure if you're looking at the poster right now, a lot of people haven't seen this one. This is a suspenseful horror again. It's basically a photographer breaks his leg and has to stay in this apartment that looks into... It's in New York, so it looks into a complex where you can see into everybody's windows. And so he basically witnesses a murder. And no one believes him. Everyone thinks he's crazy. But he wasn't. So, and I know that there's like newer movies that are based off of this. Yeah. But this was the original. This is the one you should watch. It's an amazing movie. I watched it in my film analysis class in 9th grade. So I loved it so much. Yeah, that's why it's top 2. If it wasn't so good, I wouldn't put it at top 2. But you need to watch it.
Nice. So now we're at number 1. And my number 1 has to be Avengers Infinity War. This is the part 1 of the End Game duo movie. At the end, when the bad guy wins, everyone's just like walking out of the theater like
sad
and like shocked.
Yeah.
Everyone is walking out of the theater shocked that the bad guy won, and like it felt like a comic book. Like you're like, wow, that just happened, and then you have to wait for the next issue to like finish it. And the bad guy, Thanos, is great. My favorite MCU villain.
Yeah.
And there were some sad deaths and some epic battles.
Yeah. I remember walking out of the theater kind of like, that can't be the ending. That can't be the ending.
Yeah.
And then having to wait for, what was it, like a year?
Yeah, a year and a half.
I had to wait a year to finally get the closure.
Yeah.
I remember I was kind of mad about that, but now looking back at it, it was a great creative choice. Definitely wouldn't have wanted it any other way. So, my number 1 movie, you will never guess, is a Tom Hanks movie. It's got to be Forrest Gump. I know you haven't seen Forrest Gump. A lot of people have seen Forrest Gump.
Yeah.
It's an amazing movie. It's been out for a while. Man, it is an amazing movie. It's basically he's mentally disabled. So he isn't the sharpest tool in the shed, but he just, with motivation, you can basically do whatever you want. A lot of people have told him that he couldn't do what he does in the movie, and he does it anyway. And it shows that if you want something bad enough, you can do it. It's just an amazing movie. Number 1 on my list. You know it's got to be good.
Yeah.
Tom Hanks is an amazing actor.
I'll definitely have to check that out as well.
It's definitely, some parts of it are pretty dang sad.
Yeah.
But it is a good movie to watch. So,
Yeah. Well, I think that wraps up our top 10 movies. Let
thanks
us
for
know
watching.
what your top 10 movies are in the comments.
Yeah.
Do you agree with our picks? Do you hate our picks?
Do you hate us?
Please don't hate us.
I'm T.
And I'm B.
And thank you so much for watching this episode. We are out.
Out.